Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we are taking a look at the Rough Rider Tater Tot, as well as the other knives in this series. Now, this is the latest version in a very fun and just silly series from Rough Rider that originated with this Rough Rider Tadpole. And the Tadpole kind of gained a cult following thanks in large part to Big Red EDC and his community, who affectionately named it the Angry Watermelon, which is going to come into play a couple knives from now. But I think there were a lot of factors that played into that. Obviously, him kind of endorsing it and liking this knife and getting that kind of affectionate nickname helped. But the price was right on these. These were $9.99 when they came out. In fact, that's what I paid for the first four. They have since gone up to $11.99, so $2 price difference, but still firmly in that budget territory. And then the fact that these are 2 inches in that closed position, nice little pocket droppers at super budget price, and that the deployment method on these is a spring assisted flipper. And so it adds to that kind of novelty thing, and you don't see a lot of assisted knives in this size and then at that price point. It's a good way for people to check out a spring assisted flipper if they don't have one in their collection already. And so all that to say that this was a popular knife for Rough Rider. It sold very well, and enough for them to make another version of it, which is of course the next one, the Baby B. Now the Baby B was identical to that Tadpole in every way, except for the color of those covers. So we have G10 covers on these, and this one is yellow and black versus that green and black, but otherwise identical. And I would assume that one did well enough, probably not as good as the original because that's just usually the case, but well enough. And so they continued on in the series, really leaned into the silliness of it all, and released the Angry Watermelon, which I mentioned earlier. And so this has the same green and black G10 covers, but now we have that coated blade on there. This one's pink with seeds all over it and has that eye towards the tip of the knife in green, kind of matches the cover material. Really, really fun knife, and just super kind of silly version of this, but really, really glad they end up making that. Now, around the same time they released, and it may have released actually the same day, the Stompin Blueberry. And so this one has blue and black G10 covers, maybe the best looking in the series, at least in my opinion, and really love the way those turned out. You can see that blade has the blue coating, no seeds of course on the blueberry, but we do have a blue eye and then the Stompin Blueberry on both sides of the blade. So that was kind of an addition that wasn't on the Angry Watermelon. Now recently they released 3 more. I only picked up one of those, being the Tater Tot, but really, really cool version of this. This one was also $11.99, so same price point as the originals, but you can see ventured away from that G10 covers. This one has the brown micarta that we see in the Tater series that they do on some of their other Rough Rider knives. And so really love the brown micarta, paired that up with the coating on the blade, which is a yellow brownish color. Those are not seeds on this one. Those are just kind of texture that you would see inside of a potato. And then we have the eye towards the tip and Tater Tot again on both sides of the blade. Now they released this alongside 2 others, and I didn't pick either of those up yet. I most likely will, assuming they don't sell out at some point. I just didn't really want to spend that much on all of them in bulk because this is kind of a novelty item. It's not, going to be a heavy use. I have no problem carrying or using them, but it's a tiny little knife, not going to get a ton of use. And so didn't really want to buy them all at once. I'll add them to orders when I order from SNKW in the future. And if I miss one, I miss one. But the other 2 are the Mean Tangerine and the Angry Lightning Bug. I think very cool. Don't know what the covers on those are, but assuming some sort of synthetic, because Randy's WSG, another channel here on YouTube, pointed out to me that they are glow in the dark, which I think is really cool, but leads me to believe that is some sort of synthetic cover material. Definitely check his channel out as well. But those ones, aside from the different cover materials, are also a little bit pricier at $17.99. Now I know $17.99 is still firmly in that budget price point, but doesn't feel as good of a deal. These ones kind of feel like a steal. For what they are, you don't want to pay a ton of money for them, and so that $12 price point feels like something I'm really comfortable with. That $18 price point, it's not the end of the world. I'm still going to pick them up most likely, but doesn't feel like a deal like these ones do. And so with that said, let's talk about the knife itself. Not going to spend too much time on it. As I mentioned, they are kind of a novelty item, but 3.5 inches overall. We have a 2-inch handle, And you can get a 2-finger grip on there. You're not gonna be able to get even a part of your 3rd finger on there, so pretty tight grip overall. It's relatively comfortable for what it is, keeping in mind that it's a 2-finger grip. It's not gonna be, you know, an ergo superstar, but it's relatively comfortable. Now, if you really tighten down on that, you can start to feel this liner lock, which is kind of sticking out, so you have access to it and then jimped. But for the stuff that you're using this knife for, I don't know what you would need to really be tightening down that hard on. And so in that kind of loose grip, if you're just, you know, opening packages, opening mail, cutting strings and things like that, probably not going to feel it. But if you do tighten down, I could imagine that becoming a hot spot. But again, I'm not really using them like that, so pretty comfortable for what it is. We have a 1.5 inch long clip point style blade that is a stainless steel. Now, they don't advertise what type of stainless steel. I've heard 440A, but I'm not actually sure about that. So some sort of stainless, I'm sure it's fine, again, for the price point that we're paying. And worth noting that the Tater Tot had the best edge by far of the 5 that I got. So I don't know if they've kind of improved that sharpening process or it's just kind of a luck of the draw type thing, but this one did have the best action. And so weight-wise, we're looking at 1.1 to 1.2 ounces. I think the Micarta was slightly heavier than that G10 at 1.2 ounces. And I have no idea about the other 2 that I don't have, but I'm assuming they're within 0.1 ounces in either direction. So gonna be pretty lightweight no matter what. Now, in terms of that 2-finger grip, you can improve that a little bit by adding a lanyard. These do have a lanyard hole with a little barrel backspacer here. Can't fit 550 paracord, but you could put some sort of lanyard on there if you chose to. I haven't done that with any of them, but might be worth doing if you're actually planning on kind of getting more use out of this than just kind of simple everyday tasks. And so nice that that is included. Now, these are modern knives in every sense of the word. The tooled construction, the liner lock, and that flipper tab that's spring assisted, all very modern touches and a locking knife. But because it does have these traditional style of covers, I do think it's worth taking a look at those. And they're not perfect, and I guess you probably really shouldn't expect them to be perfect for $12. But if that's something that's going to bother you, maybe worth skipping these ones. The overall, I think pretty good. I love the look of this brown micarta. The cover, the show side is very good. If we flip over to that PAL side, it is a little bit crooked. We have a gap on the right side that I can get my nail into if I want to. And so a little bit crooked, not something that I'm super upset or even worried about. It doesn't affect the functionality of the knife. These are screwed in there. It's not going anywhere. So not something I'd want to initiate a return on, but it does happen. Now, if we flip over to the Stompin Blueberry, on the other hand, this one is almost perfect in every way. Can't find any imperfections. The blade came pretty sharp on this one, and the action on it's very good, which is worth noting that I'd say 4 of the 5, that spring assisted action, excellent. If we go over to the Tadpole, on the other hand, it's really kind of a weaker spring. It fires open 100% of the time. It's never failing on me, but it doesn't have the kick that the other 4 have. And so that may be, again, something that they kind of perfected over time with the lineup, and as they made more of these, they just kind of improved on it, and we have better action consistently now. Or it could be that, luck of the draw, I got a bad example, a bad spring on mine. But again, not something that's really bothering me because it's consistent. It kicks out 100% of the time. It just doesn't feel as strong of a kick as the rest of these. Now, if we go over to the Baby B, this one probably has the worst fit and finish overall with that PAL side cover. You can see there's a gap all the way across between the bolster and the cover. Definitely can get my nail under there. The cover is also sitting a little bit lower than the bolster. And if you look at it in that top-down view, hopefully this is picking up on camera, but you can just see the liner from the top-down view because it's so off-centered. And so, again, not something that I really care so much about because it's not affecting any of the actual usability of the knife, but something that may bother some people and worth pointing out. Now, overall, I'm really glad that they make this series. I hope they continue with this series. It reminds me a lot of, the Desert Warrior, and maybe not the original 2, but how they're coating the blades and making different types of foods, and they're just kind of fun knives that are very accessible, and maybe even more accessible than the Desert Warrior because these don't sell out as quickly. So very accessible and also not intimidating. You know, if you pull this out in an office, who's going to be intimidated by a knife that looks like a watermelon in every way? Not just the handles, but the entire thing looks like a watermelon. Even though it has that scary spring-assisted flipper action, when you see it, you know that this is just a tool. It's just a fun novelty item, not a threat in any way. And so I think that's kind of a cool thing. But more importantly, I think it's something that's interesting enough that pretty much everyone I show these to that's not into knives are like, oh, that's cute, or oh, that's cool, I want that. And so with holidays coming up, for whatever holiday you celebrate, pretty much most of those are coming up towards the end of the year. This is a great kind of stocking stuffer type item, or whatever the equivalent of that is, type item that you can give to someone who's not into knives. Maybe you want them to be more into knives, or at least carry a knife, and most of them would drop this in their pocket or drop this in their purse with no problem and try it out and maybe get more into knives. And if they don't, you spent $12 on it. It didn't break the bank. It was kind of a no-risk type gift, and I think that's pretty cool. So I hope they continue to make them. I hope they continue to do weird things. I always enjoy them. For me personally, being into the hobby, I'll almost always buy these like weird novelty things that are trying something new, whether it's the deployment method, the locking method, or the design where they're just weird and funny designs. I'm almost always going to pick up that kind of stuff, and so glad that there's companies out there doing that. But let me know what you think of this series of knives, if you have any of the knives and which ones, or if you plan on picking up any of the new ones. I will try and link to these in the description. I don't think all of them are in stock right now, but they do restock. I think you can definitely get the Tadpole, and I know you can get the Tater Tot. Not sure about the middle ones. I would imagine some are, some aren't, but I'll link to as many as possible in the description of the video if you're interested in checking them out. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting that notification button. And as always, I hope you have a great one. Take care.